And so our first performer is Aisha Williams. Aisha Williams is a writer, storyteller, recording artist, and poet. As a youth, she always was drawn to the arts and creativity, but didn't fully pursue her passion of writing until recently. After going to publish her first poetry book and releasing her debut spoken word album, she decided to make her dream a consistent reality. She is now a new mom and aspiring entrepreneur with hopes of fusing being of service to her community and writing. She believes that this opportunity can help her grow as an artist, human, and advocate. So please welcome Aisha Williams with her piece, Alive and Well.
Thank you. My body holds secrets I didn't always know how to tell, because the world has explicitly conditioned me not to trust myself. So when does my body ever belong to me? When I'm nursing on demand, or when I'm being catcalled in the street? Or is it when I'm on my knees begging a religious God that man says hates me because of who I was born to be? Desperately praying for a remedy to get me a good night's sleep and mind's peace. When postpartum anxiety and despair hover me while I lose my hair, rendering me a stranger in my own body. No room to breathe, suffocating in solitude with no air supply. When does my body belong to me? Is it during my 6-week checkup when they tell me that I am ready to have sex? Telling me it's okay to give myself to someone else when I'm not even okay for myself yet? Meanwhile, I'm sinking in postpartum anxiety and depression, managing relationship changes, anger, and resentment. And am I still worthy when I cannot please another? The girl in me still wants validity. I yearn to feel safe, to be free. And it seems impossible while being a Black mother. When does my body belong to me? Mama's baby, daddy's maybe. First, I'm my mother's child, not sure if she wanted me. Then I'm a daddy's girl, and neither did he. Thrown into the world before I was ready because 18 is grown and I don't want to be abused anymore. So now who owns this body? Bearing the burden of breaking generational curses, no guidebook, no one to tell me that it's worth it. My body holds the intensity of my immigrant grandmother's sacrifices and secrets. Still holding my breath at the highest of standards that were placed on me for niceness and neatness, perfection. But nothing was ever enough. People pleasing, overachieving, soul depleting, no matter what goal I was exceeding, I just wasn't lovable. So for the love I desire, I freely give it away. Striving to give myself the grace my mother couldn't have gave, struggling to find the love my dad took away, looking in the world as a young impressionable girl for an escape. When am I human? Where am I safe? No awareness in tow, my mouth not knowing how to say no, saying yes because he wants to. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? A free agent, but not by choice. Trauma-induced decisions left me feeling void. Where is God in the midst of my plight? Does my body belong to another him? Why do I feel like this inside? Who am I outside of others' eyes? 33, 29, 38. Too many violations to count. My body becoming a learning curve, with men and women only seeing my curves, because I wasn't protected as a little girl. Every step of the way, my naivety propels me into an inescapable lesson, an armoire of broken promises while I pick up the pieces of my spirit to put back on the altar of this Eurocentric God while I feign for the love I never received. Who does my body belong to? The systems keep my will complicit in my own shame, so much so that I become rigid at the thought of my own freedom. Every place I look is a fragmented piece of my divinity, measured, my sacredness compartmentalized and severed, my worth, my appearance, my performance, and productivity, discounting me, rejecting me, silencing me, stealing my energy. My trauma creating spaces of infiltration and lack of boundaries in my own body. Doing everything right left me feeling empty inside. ignoring my mind and body as if it is the thing that I'm supposed to defy. When does my body belong to me? Is it when my Blackness is measured? My own community denies my Blackness, and I feel this undeserved pressure. My curls, texture, complexion, and vernacular deems me unworthy amongst my own culture. Just wanting to belong, but instead I'm torn apart like prey to a vulture, scavenger. I didn't feel safe amongst my own, so how does that translate to me when the innate attributes of my being are supposed to be home? But I am on this journey, unlearning the curses that predispose me to outward compliance. My bodily autonomy, according to society, is downright defiance. This is the part of the story where I learn to give myself grace. Instead of doing what I'm told, I'm honoring my spirit and my intuition these days. I'm no longer a long way from feeling like home. I'm in it. I am safe. I am human. I am Aisha, alive and well. And no matter what anyone says, I own this body. I own my body. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aisha, for that beautiful piece. As Vina said earlier, every time we hear the piece, it's just like I feel like I'm like just learning even more about each of these women's incredible journey. Next, we will have Jenny with her piece Valency. Jenny is a K-12 science and math teacher who has been writing poetry since she herself was in grade school. She has written with Winter Tangerine, Speakeasy, and her work can be found in Frontier Poetry. Please welcome Jenny.
Thank you. My grandmother drove tractors, big hulking things that dwarfed her body but bowed at her will, quieted at her command. My mother hates driving, so much so that she fled by foot or by sea. Sometimes I forget which, unafraid of salt and water, slathering lotion and butter onto brittle skin, warning me not to wash dishes without gloves lest I corrode in the sink, neglected and unfeminine. My mother, mercurial with new moon light, began displacing water with her bare hands, promising grandma she would teach me how to coax rust off the spit stains under our eyes each time we crossed America's metal detector borders. But Ma, when you shed your ore, core of my corpus, molten copper, body as ingot, carved and hardened, I was assembled from your fragments. So I hope you know I was born into this alloyed existence, a hot, temperamental blend of forged elements, conflicting electrons. I hope you know that one day I decided to strip long, unwieldy pieces of skin and fat off my unforgiving bones and stood under our sun, every glint a dare to raise fists over geography and flesh. I hope you know my womanhood was mined, extruded, not preserved with rubber gloves, for metal, if you did not know, must be annealed. I kneel at your feet, Ma, and beg you to understand how these metallic limbs must be softened with bitter heat, gentle cooling, how it will rid me of stress and unkind distortions of being. These days I pump iron, roll my body into sheets, weld the stubbornest parts of myself into something fierce, unyielding. I dream of grandma's home, a town named after gold, and I braze these Western pipes, soldering iron smoking against unwelcoming gates. Because you cannot ask me at customs to simply unclasp my earrings and surrender my phone when my body is steel, slivers of silver. You can ask me to take off my shoes, show you my papers, take my papers, but you cannot force me to uncouple generational beams of machinery. and gold and memory from my body when they have become my body. You cannot divorce my future children from a legacy of alchemy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jenny, for your just beautiful, beautiful piece. Such amazing imagery in there. I'm excited to announce our next performer. Michelle Foster is a heart-centered registered drama therapist. She has been working with individuals to discover their unique voice for over 10 years throughout South Florida. She utilizes a variety of theater and psychotherapy techniques to create a holistic experience to honor and support the individuals to meet their unique needs. In addition to being a drama therapist, Michelle has been featured on the podcast The Creative Soulpreneur, improvised with the Front Yard Theater, We Love Murder, performed at the Improv Comedy Club, and various stages throughout South Florida. So please help me in welcoming Michelle Foster with her piece, The Great Divide.
I felt this heaviness in my body, a heaviness that resided all throughout my body, a heaviness I called the Great Divide. The Great Divide first crept up when I was a little girl. It crept up, it got into my thoughts. It would tell me things like, "You're not worthy. No one wants to talk to you. You're a loser." This set the stage for me, making me feel insecure. I wanted my parents to tell me I was enough, for my mom to tell me that moving would stop, that my father would tell me that I'm pretty, someone special. I wanted my parents to just embrace me, to silence the Great Divide. In high school, the Great Divide's voice got louder and louder. It went throughout my body. The Great Divide would tell me, "You're a loser. No one cares about you. You're not enough." I yearned for my parents to tell me I was enough. I yearned for them to tell me I was special, that I was pretty. The Great Divide continued. It continued to course throughout this body of mine. It took space. It rented space in this body of mine. Its voice got louder. It would tell me, "You just drink, drink, numb yourself, numb yourself, numb." The voices would just it would just echo, echo, echo. I remember having panic attacks and not being able to breathe. I remember not being able to look at people in the eyes. And that's when I got help. I participated in mental health therapy. And that's when I felt a lightness. I was seen. I was able to recognize through mental health therapy that maladjustment was a result of being emotionally abandoned since childhood. And it was like a revelation. I was able to do the inner child work. I was able to just connect, see people, and sit with me. And that's when the voice of inner wisdom stepped in. She would tell me that I was worthy, that I was someone, that I was enough. And that's when I was able to crystallize my stories. I was able to crystallize my stories and see that as my path. See that storytelling, my agency, my story was worthy. And I was able to guide others to let them know that they were worthy, that they were enough, that their voices matter. The Great Divide decides to creep in, and my inner wisdom silences it. Because of my inner wisdom, I could listen compassionately to my parents. I could see them for who they were. My father, he wanted to have the American dream, but he was never recognized for his efforts. And my mother, she wanted to be an artist, but she was never recognized for that. They weren't terrible people. Still doesn't take away the fact that I was emotionally abandoned since I was a child. I just listen to my inner voice, my inner guidance to guide me. And she whispers, "You are enough. You have so much to offer." And now she just resides within this body of mine, my heart, my soul, my everything.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I love how you just like personify a great divide that many of us, have felt in our own lives of like how do we bridge ourselves, and like you said, that we're enough, that our stories are enough. So thank you for that and the work that you do. So our next performer is Nicole. Nicole will be performing her piece, "The Story of My Blackness." Nicole is a Black woman, advocate for racial and social justice, early childhood educator, equity trainer, and aspiring writer. She believes that service is her purpose and that we are all truly connected and interdependent. She actively uses her voice, her words, and her facial expressions to activate others who have yet committed to their roles in service. And I know from all the times we've talked to Nicole that she's definitely always committing all of the people around her to thinking about their roles in this world. So thank you so much for sharing your piece with us today, Nicole.
The story of my blackness. The world has tried to define, deconstruct, and destroy my blackness. Early on, Black was defined for me, defined by my elders as powerful but needing refinement. It must be soft but hold firm. It has to be a door opener but a selective door holder. It has to be able to be turned on and off. During my first transition from Cali girl to Minnesota transplant, from cute to think she's cute, my blackness became a weapon. It was dangerous and loud, something for the other kids to watch out for. It was contagious, something to be mimicked but never admired. It was inherently cool with a rhythm unearned and never taught, but thought to be my own, as if the of the double Dutch ropes were in line with the beat of my own heart, and that the roll of my neck came as naturally as learning to walk. It was ghetto. It needed refinement through white gaze. Entering womanhood, although too young to define it for myself, my blackness needed to be thin, light skinned, and fierce, or fat and jolly, but never average in any way. My blackness needed to be supportive, strong enough to hold his trauma while quietly staying silent on my own. It had to be stoic and embody the grace of every Black actress popular at the time, but still willing to fight like every down ass chick in the music videos. My blackness was supposed to be confident, but rely on his compliments and his refinement. Transitioning into motherhood redefined me and my blackness. It is mine to hold, shape, and mold. It is mine to construct and divine. It is kind, loving, determined, passionate, and hostile. It is reckless in its love and support of other Black women. It is purposeful in its protection of Black children. It is unwavering to its commitment to mothering my Black son. It means I'll be on the phone
to take the call when he's pulled over, to hear his last breath so he won't die alone, to tell his story. My Blackness is my sword and my shield, and I won't let it go for anyone. It refuses to code switch for more than 5 minutes, and as it grows wiser, the minutes grow shorter. It is educated in life, nourished by both research and anecdotal stories. It is connected to my ancestors, and the knowledge I pass down is adorned with it. My Blackness is me. It is my joy. It is my
I believe that Nicole might be having some difficulties right now. So we'll just pause for a moment while we try and get her back.
The story was too powerful for Zoom can take it. We appreciate you all sitting in the silence with us. It's not, I guess, often that we can sit in silence together, so appreciate it as we handle these technical difficulties.
Also, because you have to, because you can't unmute yourselves.
Yes, Brittany, the white supremacist spirit stopped the connectivity. They were so mad. All right, as we're gonna, well, this was a perfect timing actually. We were going into intermission after this performance anyway. So during this time, we'll work with Nicole to hopefully bring her back. She can do her piece again if she's able to get back online. But we wanted to put in a 10-minute intermission for you all to take some time, take a deep breath, grab some water, do a bio break if you need to, or connect with folks in the chat. But yeah, please take this time, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. We'll put on a timer so that you can see when you need to be back, and I'll also be playing some music in the background for you all. And currently, this is we're creating a "This Is My Body" playlist. So if you have any of your favorite songs by women of color, please submit it to us, and we'll include it on this playlist, and we can share it with you afterwards, so we can work on a collective playlist together. So with that, we'll see you in 10 minutes. We hope to see you back. See you soon.
What we're going to do now is invite Nicole back to not just finish her piece, but we're going to ask her to start from the beginning so she has that entire experience with the entirety of her piece, and you can understand and experience her piece in totality as well. So thank you for sticking with us with the technical difficulties, but especially thank you, Nicole, for finding a way to join back so we can hear your incredible piece.
The story of my Blackness. The world has tried to define, deconstruct, and destroy my Blackness. Early on, Black was defined for me. Defined by my elders as powerful, but needing refinement. It must be soft, but hold firm. It has to be a door opener, but a selective door holder. It has to be able to be turned on and off. During my first transition from Cali girl to Minnesota transplant, from cute to think she's cute, my Blackness became a weapon. It was dangerous and loud, something for the other kids to watch out for. It was contagious, something to be mimicked but never admired. It was inherently cool, with a rhythm unearned and never taught, but thought to be my own, as if the tss, tss, tss of double Dutch ropes were in line with the beat of my own heart. That the roll of my neck came as naturally as learning to walk. It was ghetto. It needed refinement through white gaze. Entering womanhood, though too young to define it for myself, my Blackness needed to be thin, light-skinned, and fierce, or fat and jolly, but never average in any way. My Blackness needed to be supportive, strong enough to hold his traumas while keeping quiet about my own. It had to be stoic and embody the grace of every Black actress popular at the time, but still willing to fight like every down-ass chick in the music videos. My Blackness was supposed to be confident, but rely on his compliments and refinement. Transitioning into motherhood redefined me and my Blackness. It is mine to hold, shape, and mold. It is mine to construct and define. It is kind, loving, determined, passionate, and hostile. It is reckless in its love and support of Black women. It is purposeful in the protection of Black children. It is unwavering in the commitment to mothering my Black son. It means I'll be on the phone to take the call when he's pulled over, to hear his last breath so he won't die alone, and to tell his story. My Blackness is my sword and my shield, and I won't let it go for anyone. It refuses to code switch for more than 5 minutes, and as it grows wiser, the minutes grow shorter. It is educated in life, nourished both by research and anecdotal stories. It is connected to my ancestors, and the knowledge I pass down is adorned with it. My Blackness is me. It's my joy, my pain, it's my laughter, my hair, my lips, my hips, and my ass. It is my righteous fury, my gentle compassion, my dedication to service, and my connection to God. My Blackness is my son, my mother, my brother, and my roots. It's my past, my present, my future. My Blackness is my gift, and I share it freely with you. Thank you.
I mean, I told you all right. Like even if you hear it the second time, it's still so powerful. And thank you so much, Nicole. I'm glad we were able to work with all the technical difficulties and got to bring you back. I could hear that piece several more times and still be moved. So thank you so much for dealing with that. The technical difficulties of the Zoom gods who try to interfere with your magic. Well, thank you all for coming back. I'm so excited to introduce our next performer, Stephanie Wong. Stephanie is a historian, writer, and educator. As dedicated to dim sum as she is to decolonization, duality. I love it. She is broadly interested in creating narratives about diaspora, cultural criticism, and queerness. So please welcome Stephanie in her piece, Canto.
Thank you, Vina. It's really good to see some familiar names in the audience. This is Canto. Ocean Vuong says the Asian American body is seen as an instrument, an empty vessel to fill with whiteness. The flesh vessel of my body is leather hard now. The hands that shaped my mind were white, and haptic memories of them remain. But how to carve away the putrefaction to reveal a narrative that looks like me? I have spent years trying to slough off the festering whiteness, scraping at the unfired version of me. The cutting room floor is awash in dirty snow and dead skin. During the trimming process, this poem found me at the wheel. It gave me an excuse to incubate, to let myself sprawl. Despite the work I have done, assiduously scouring and scrubbing the patina of colonialism and imperialism and racism and sexism and respectability away, it sticks. The British invade. The Americans exclude. 6 women die in Atlanta. Selfa Chu, the poem's author, exists in the same landscape. Her family, like mine, is originally from southern China. Through a series of historically parallel events, mostly due to ongoing waves of migration from Asia to the Americas, we are both Hispanophone women of the Chinese diaspora working in the academy. In 2007, she wrote this poem, Chio Sam, a tribute to her Cantonese grandfather. The poem was so biographical, I felt moored in its material. But because empty vessels still have some responsibility towards the art that they hold and that they channel, I needed advice. So I wrote to Professor Chu, and I asked her what she remembered of her grandfather. She said how he used to take me in his arms and sang and talked to me in Cantonese. He did not speak Spanish, but he did describe me in Cantonese and in English. My mom did not speak English, but was familiar with the word strong my grandfather described me with. I asked Professor Chu about her thoughts on the poem now. She said, the fact that my grandfather empowered me, a woman, that he attempted to transfer some of his culture, that I imagined he would want for me to always be strong, not beautiful, not delicate, but strong, makes sense in the face of anti-Asian racism. It is this strength that I memorialize, utilize, and take with me. It is the tool I use to shape the empty vessel of me, on my terms, with my artistry. Here is my translation of Selfa Chu's poem, Chio Sam, from the Spanish to English. My mother says it's not possible that I can remember the smell of bread or the bamboo carrying the steam that leaked out of my grandfather's kitchen. It's not possible that I remember his singing in Cantonese, his gaze, thin and prideful, his cane and quiet shoes. I still see the smell of his cigar and his yellow teeth, the showcase, the nickname of the place where my grandfather cooked, and his suits, the immobile hats contemplating the white bread, a soft pillow that surrounded the distinct taste of lunch. I see his shadow and his maxims, like the ones in fortune cookies that they hand out in Chinese restaurants. And that my grandfather couldn't figure out how some clients would make their money. And one more expectation of what we should be or should give as Orientals. You will grow up. you will put up walls. You will forget the long march in the cafe with the red tables and the cascade of unwashed cutlery, endless detergent in the background, the steam of white bread, mild, tepid. But my mother says it's impossible that I could understand my grandfather's words. I didn't even speak it, and he only sang in Cantonese. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and just your ability to share that translation with us and turning that into something of your own and the art of just the beauty of thinking about how language transcends how we interact with people and just the through line you create of imperialism and trauma. And so thank you so much for sharing your piece with us. Our next performer will be Jasmine Fountain. Jasmine's piece is entitled God's Butterfly. Jasmine has been an educator for 7 years to both youth and adults of color in Atlanta, Oakland, and Flint. In her career, she has worked with high school students to help them harness their power as writers with critical insights to share with the world. Additionally, she has worked with women to see the beauty that can come from the most challenging times in their lives as they embrace themselves and others, much like This Is My Body. Through these practices, she has helped those who have often felt silenced and isolated to find their voice and to build community. And so excited to add Jasmine's voice to our performance today.
Once upon a time, there was a very hungry caterpillar. She entered the world an empty vessel, anticipating with wonders the delicacies she would indulge in. At first, she only ate what her parents provided her, and there were glimmers of love there. But at times, it was overwhelmed by the contaminated messages of what it meant to be a daughter from two hurt people. As the caterpillar grew older, she became all the more hungrier as she ventured out into the world. And she consumed performative messages of what it meant to be a student from her teachers, religious messages of what it meant to be a Christian from pastors, toxic messages of what it meant to be a woman from men, condemning messages of what it meant to be a mother from traditional values, racist messages of what it meant to be Black from every facet of life. These messages left her starved because she knew there had to be more. This hungry caterpillar ate, and she ate, and she ate all that was presented to her, not stopping to consider the potency of what she was ingesting. She came to realize that through these messages, she had been eating the fruit of deception, just like Eve back in the garden. An apple of fear, a stone fruit of despair, a berry of comparison, a citrus of insecurity, a melon of conformity, and oh, the exotic fruits of coping. But no matter how much she ate, she never felt satisfied. There was always this deep hunger within her, begging for more. So she ate all the world had to offer her, hoping that one day she would be satiated. Then the caterpillar fell ill. Her vision was blurred, her head was clouded, her heart was weak, and her stomach was twisted. She had tasted the world and it had poisoned her. So she went to take her final rest. She wandered to a secluded branch and she accepted her fate. She allowed the darkness to overtake her, enveloping her as a cocoon.
She had conceded to the effects of low-hanging fruit. But her creator had a plan for her resurrection. And it was there, in the depth of her despair, where he met her in intimacy. And she would receive the only message she would ever need, the message of unconditional, unfailing, unwavering, and unending love. The love with which she was created, the love that rendered her complete. You see, while the world had brought her messages of fear, rejection, lack, and conformity, Jesus entered into her stillness with tidings of love, adoption, abundance, and freedom. The caterpillar had entered the cocoon believing it was the end of her life. But when the one who knew her as his masterpiece was able to get her alone, he revealed to her that this was not her finale, but rather her genesis. And she received the promises that his love bestowed upon her. And the false identity she had once succumbed to were stripped away. And through the revelation, her true nature took its form. The more she consumed the word, the more every single inch of her was transformed, until finally a new creation was birthed. Because with him, what the world saw as death was actually a calling to new life. Every rejection, a calling to a higher path. Every no, a calling to an inner yes. And every single hunger pain, a calling to the fullness of love. With these realizations, she emerged from the darkness of her cocoon as a butterfly, created in love, by love, to receive love, to be love, and to gift love. Her journey of redemption is etched on her wings. Each story of restoration becoming a pattern of vivid, colorful scales formed as a shield to protect her as she takes flight, gracing the skies with her glorious beauty, the splendor that is her. Having learned the importance of what she consumes, this butterfly now only drinks from jasmine flowers, each one grown just for her by God, filling her with new messages of the gospel, which guide her in authenticity on a unique path created just by her, for her Heavenly Father. The nectar of each jasmine flower possessing tender messages that make her heart sing. Her life has become a manifestation of God's love. As she flies, the testimonies her wings display inspire hope within others. After each meal, the pollen that she carries gives rise to new jasmine flowers for her continual nourishment. While the world might have tried to confine her in darkness, she now flies in the light of the one who created her to be free. Now, instead of hungering for the validation of the world, I thirst for the truth of the one who says, I was fearfully and wonderfully made, because I am God's butterfly.
Ooh, yeah, we're seeing a lot of snaps in the chat. Everyone take a deep breath. Guess it's Sunday and we feel like I just attended an amazing sermon at church. Thank you so much, Jasmine. That was so beautiful. So many beautiful lines, imagery, I felt like I wanted to quote all the lines in your piece. Is just truly amazing. So thank you so much for that. And the jasmine flowers, it works out perfectly. Well, I think we're getting to the point. I'm so bummed, but we are bummed, but also very excited to introduce our last performer who will take us home. So Chi O is a work in progress, still becoming. She's a catalyst, storyteller, and budding facilitator. Her 9 to 5 puts her squarely in the realm of design thinking and social impact. But outside of that, she's looking for ways to find and build community and to write a little more about the quirks that make up our cultures, societies, and lives. So please help me welcome Chi O with her piece, The Body, Home to.
What is home? Is it a place I come back to? Is it the place that I feel safe? Is it lights on in every window and happy noise spilling out of every room? Is it books? Is it my favorite stories scattered across my bed in my coffee table? Is it people? Their voices in my ear, their messages on my screen, their faces gathered together in my name. Is this the width and the breadth of it, the long and the short of it? Is this the full sum of home? See, I've been thinking a lot about homes, about soft sheets and blue decorative pillows and rugs that I dig my toes into as soon as I kick off my shoes. About dark wood shelves and brightly colored hardcovers and dog-eared read-alongs and my fingers up against the grain, the gloss. See, I've been thinking a lot about homes, about rooms, right? Rooms that let in light, all the light, as much light as I want. And the dust motes in that light that I used to follow with my eyes as a kid. I've been thinking about the people that I feel home with, about hugs and heads on my shoulders and hands in my hair and the faces that make that space safe to me, for me. I've been thinking a lot about bodies too, about my own nooks and crannies. The way that flesh folds in the space between shoulder and waist. I've been thinking about my patchwork skin, a dozen shades of brown, no new coat of paint. I've been pondering the bumpiness of my arms, decidedly not baby soft, yeah. And I've been thinking about the softness of my belly and the words that I repeat every day to be brave enough to bear it. I've been thinking about bodies, about my own creaky doorways and open windows, my knees that grind to unlock but still get me where I need to go, as painful as they might be. About the gap in my teeth to let in air, to fake whistle with, to underline my grins. I've been thinking about my own mantles and stills, see, wear and tear from 30 years and 4 odd months of living, skin shins from playing varsity volleyball, from climbing mango trees out back, from a first time too enthusiastic attempt at shaving. I've been thinking about condensation on my rooftops and dripping down my outsides, my hands and my hair, wet and glistening with oil. What unmakes a home? What shakes the very foundation to bring all four walls crashing down? Is it heavy doors slamming on the way out? Is it a silence so thick and so summertime hot that it freezes you in place? Actually, no, maybe it's dirty dishes in the sink and a whole bunch of dirty laundry in the air. And voices raised insisting that you bring honor to this family or you bring nothing at all. What undoes a body? Is it a burn, an ache in your throat that comes from being told that you are too much and not actually enough? Is it the shakiness in your hands, normally so still as you kneel to help a monster tie their shoelaces? Is it a dullness in your eyes? The unnatural distending of your stomach? Hair that you shed like tears in response to a trauma that you cannot acknowledge? See, I've been taking years and years of building and rebuilding, of bending at the waist to heave foundational rock back into place. It has taken years and years of framing and reframing, of gathering all the broken glass inside my mind to piece together a new me. It has taken years and years of repeating the messy mantra that you grow through what you go through. Years, until all that work became me. Until one day I woke up and had to acknowledge that the bones and the flesh of my mortal shell are actually a place to rest. Me and not the entirety of me, this body is a location. It's actually a physical manifestation of everything I have experienced and all that I want to hold on to. Mine, by virtue of being mine, yes, but before people and before places. All of this is home to. My body, a home for happiness. My shoulders shaking, my arms outstretched as I laugh. My body, a home for fear, for clenched fists and deep breaths and cold drafts that move from room to room. My body, a home for recklessness, a home for slammed doors. My body, a home for squared shoulders and an air of fuck it, I will do this anyway. My body, home to grief, to release, to frustration. My body, home to possibility, pregnant with potential. My body, home to fury, standing still in the face of any storm. My body, a home to contentment, to satisfaction, to yearning, to longing, to sadness, to forgiveness. Yes. forgiveness. My body, a home to grace, always, hopefully, grace. Thank you.
Chi, thank you so much for ending us on that word grace, the grace that each of us, especially as women of color, need to have for ourselves and our lives and the things that we go through. So thank you for bringing it home with that message of our bodies and forgiveness and grace. I want to do two things as we move into our closing right now. The first is I want to invite everyone to take a really deep breath with me, just to breathe in everything that we've been hearing and just like breathing out anything that we don't want to feel right now. So one deep breath in and then just let it out through your nose. The second thing I want to do is, as she says, I've also been thinking about bodies. And this week, especially, been thinking about bodies and people who aren't with us right now. They haven't made it through a pandemic that has been made worse by false leadership, people who promise us things and then we have to keep ourselves safe. Bodies who should be here who are gunned down by police, bodies that are not here because the state finds a way to find us and annihilate us. And I want to just sit in silence for a minute in memory and just honoring the bodies that aren't here. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, so much for attending the show and for witnessing these stories today in community with us. I hope that, there's something that touched you, that moved you. But again, I want to say a special thank you to the women for their vulnerability, for the power in their vulnerability and the strength in their voice and how they have shown up for each other continuously through this process. And most importantly, how they have shown up for themselves. And as I always told them, that this is the first of many stories that they have to share. They've shared stories before, they shared story through this journey, and I hope that we continue to hear from each of them and their journeys. And I'd also like to thank our sponsors who made it possible for us to have a fourth year of this show as well. Over the years, we've learned a lot of lessons from the program, but the strongest, as Vina has mentioned earlier, is just how shockingly rare and uncommon it is to have a space like this, where women of color can be vulnerable and truly feel safe to explore their experiences and tell their stories. And we hope that a fourth year becomes a fifth and a sixth and a seventh year and beyond. So we hope that you leave here committed in real ways to supporting women of color and our stories. In some ways that you can do that is you can support this work by donating to scholarship funds for This Is My Body so that women can participate in the program. Listening and supporting more women of color stories. We have a podcast called Tea and Transitions where we highlight stories from women of color. We have season 1 that's out now, and season 2 will be going deeper into some of the stories from This Is My Body, as well as if you want to engage with Navalia Collective on storytelling services for your team or your organization, please contact us. It's work that we love to do. And again, we're just trying to cultivate spaces of belonging so all of us can feel like we can take up as much space as we'd like to. And Vina added some links into the chat. So now, with that, I will move into our time where we can just connect as community. If you need to go, that's okay. Again, thank you for spending part of your Sunday with us. But we'll spend the next time taking you off mute, and you can talk about the things that are just sitting on your mind now. But again, please just be mindful of how you engage with the performers as they've just shared something really vulnerable with you all, and just kind of like take their cue for how to engage as well. But we invite you all to stay with us for the next 15-20 minutes.